Rogue One had its ups and it also had its downs. Now, one of the big things about Rogue One was it definitely did have a good story to it. It wasn't a Shakespearean play or anything, but it definitely fit well, and there definitely seemed like there was a big purpose for watching the movie. Another big part about it was there was a lot of action in the movie and a lot of good action scenes that you could watch. They were enjoyable. They were very appeasing. Definitely the climax had the best action part out of the entire sequence, I thought. When it came to some of the kind of like some of the old characters, when I looked at Darth Vader did not look like a pussy. And some of the expanded universe, what they like to do is they like to make Darth Vader look like the biggest pussy on the planet, and it's hilarious. But at the same time, though, the Rogue One did a good job, and I mean a good job that they made this guy like the original Vader, it felt like. And there's actually a scene where you actually see him fight some rebels, and it's actually really cool. And I think, because in all the other movies, you never really get to see Darth Vader like in action whatsoever against like in a battle. He might be in a duel with a fellow Jedi here and there, but at the same time though, it's so cool just watching him in a battle. Now, when it came to watching for like certain like props and all that, I thought they did a very good job of the costumes. They moved some of the aliens over with into like puppets costumes, and it looked very good actually. It looked better than some of the CGI that they did in the prequels that kind of dragged on and all that. And also, I have to say the main antagonist in the movie, the acting was probably the best for that, and he also was the best character throughout the entire movie. Now, some of the downsides of it was the CGI at some points was just not up to par. I felt one of the opening sequences when they're going around on the planet and the planet has a ring around it, my biggest issue with it was that it kind of looked like an intro to an Xbox 360 game, like a cutscene and whatnot. And I felt that they could have done a little bit better job. It just didn't feel up to scale, or at least when I saw it. But the biggest problem with the CGI was they made Tarkin a CGI character, which I didn't get whatsoever. I know the actor who played Tarkin has passed away now, and he has a very distinct look, but him as CGI right next to other human characters just didn't fit it for me. It just didn't look right whatsoever. But and also one of my biggest concerns was Princess Leia was also CGI too. I'm like, at least Princess Leia, you could actually find someone that looks remotely close to Carrie Fisher. But at the same time, though, they couldn't find anyone. They just made it CGI. I felt that was a little bit lazy there. I also thought at some point the voice acting was pretty poor with some of the characters. I felt one of the wise guy who knew a lot about the Force, he was just he kind of had some moments where he didn't really seem like he was acting character. Like maybe because sometimes, like if he wasn't seen on the scene, he would be saying something and it was just voiced over poorly. There was one time where one person was taken hostage and they had a bag over their head, and the person you could just didn't feel like they were talking through the bag like properly. It seemed like a dub. Now it wasn't like one of those like English chubs of one of those like old Godzilla movies, but I felt they could have done a much better job on it. Now, I would say this was probably the biggest one. The main character was pretty bland, and it's not because the main character was bland. Her supporting cast, the cast around her, was pretty bland. Like, the characters felt like just boring versions of rehashed characters. There are some characters who were similar to Yoda, some characters similar to, like, Darth Vader, like Chewbacca, Boba Fett, like all these Han Solo, all these characters, and they just felt like they were just boring versions of them, like just kind of dull versions. And you can make a movie through having a dull or kind of a boring main character. Look at Harry Potter. Harry Potter is a boring main character, but it works well because there's definitely some exciting personalities that's all around them. They didn't have that in the movie. Now, I don't want Star Wars to become like the Suicide Squad, where you have all these round characters with all these a lot of rich character traits, and there's just too many of them. But I also feel like you can find a medium between having a lot of characters that are bland and having a lot of characters with like rich and have a lot of in-depth personality traits. I think you can find a median there, and I think movies need to find that more. Now, when it came to the movie, I thought the movie was okay. The only reason why I think they made this movie was to introduce something in the eighth Star Wars, and no, it does not have to deal with Rey's parents or whatsoever. But what it does deal with is I saw during one of the scenes of the Bacta tank, Darth Vader's in the Bacta tank, and a man with a cloak comes in, and the person in the cloak looked very similar to Snoke from The Force Awakens. So maybe Darth Vader had some sort of secret order or something. That's pretty believable. He probably had some backup plan, like once he died to carry on the Empire or something. There's something that it probably could work out like that. And that's probably the purpose of the movie. The movie, it was okay. It's like a 6 or 7 out of 10. That's how I would rate it. And overall, is the movie worth seeing? Yeah, if you like action movies, I think it's worth seeing. But it's not your typical Star Wars film, to warn you from the beginning. You would find that out very quickly because once it opens up, the opening credits or like the opening like text, you don't have that in this one. You don't. It just cuts in right away, and then basically they introduce you to all of like the characters and whatnot, all the important main characters, and then they say it's Star Wars: The Rogue One. So it definitely takes a different aspect on the Star Wars universe. Now, when it comes to this, I would say that I really was surprised about the music. That's something I really couldn't really form an opinion on. I felt as if that, yeah, John Williams did a good job of it, but when it came to the music, it wasn't like any of the old Star Wars music or anything. There was some sequences when they did have it, but there were some sequences where they were overlapping the song, it felt like, and it felt a little bit more electronic. Now, it wasn't like you were hearing people like singing with auto-tune or whatnot, but electronic in the sense that they basically got two concert songs and they put them to two. At one point, that's how it felt. And overall, what I thought about Rogue One, I enjoyed watching it, but at the same time, though, it ain't like the greatest movie of all time.